Hi, boys and girls. I'm sorry, I am not there today. I needed to take Megan to the doctor, so I decided to make you this brief video so that you could have a better understanding of the vocabulary behind genetics. Once you get the hang of the vocabulary, you're going to be amazed at how easy everything else is going to seem. So what I want you to do is I want you to take out your interactive notebook and I want you to find the next available right page. So the next available right page, and I want you to label it genetics vocabulary and put today's date, which is 4/29. So next available right page, genetics vocabulary. So the nice thing about having this on a video is that you can pause me or rewind me in case I talk too fast. So again, right side, genetics vocabulary. So what I'm going to do is there's 5 or 6 vocabulary terms that you need to know in order to complete Punnett squares adequately or correctly, not adequately, but correctly. So the first vocabulary word that I want you to write down is the word heterozygous. Okay? So the word heterozygous, hetero means different. So although science tends to be very vocabulary heavy, the good news is you can usually break down the words to figure out what they mean. So in this case, hetero means different, and then zygous, zygote means, as you I'm sure remember, fertilized egg. So heterozygous means different. So in other words, different, not different letters, because as you know, with the letters in with the letters in genetics, that's how we figure out Punnett squares, because you did the Amoeba Sisters yesterday. But this means different size letters. Okay, so different size letters. All right. In other words, capital or lowercase. And those different size letters are called alleles. Okay, so you have different size letters, and those different size letters are called alleles. So that's heterozygous is vocabulary word 1. Allele is vocabulary word 2. So you have these different size alleles. Oops, sorry. We're going to move that over there. Okay, so you get one allele from your mom and one allele from your dad. And that was a question that was right on that Amoeba Sisters that you did yesterday. So one from mom, oh that's confusing, let me erase that, and one from dad. Okay, so these individual alleles come together. So let's say dad gives you a heterozygous, so that means the size of the letters have to be different. So let's say dad gives you an uppercase H, mom will have to give you a lowercase h because they have to be different, okay? Separately, they're called alleles, but when they come together, they are called the genotype. And let me erase that. Okay, so the individual letters, like I said, the individual letters are called alleles. You get one allele from mom, one allele from dad, but when you put those alleles together, they are called the genotype, okay? Genotype. So let's move this up. And I know this is getting messy. Whoa. Genotype. So the genotype are the two letters together. So let's look at that again. So heterozygous is different size letters. And the only choice for different size letters is capital and lowercase, because there's only two choices, capital and lowercase. If they're different, then that's your only choice. And I just keep using H because that's what you used with the guinea pigs in the Amoeba Sisters that you did yesterday, hopefully. So, heterozygous, different size letters. Those letters, the letters are called alleles. Okay, so each letter is called an allele. Hang on. Okay. So, one allele from mom plus one allele from dad. So like I said, in this case, we'll say H from mom, small h from dad, excuse me, combine together, make the genotype, another vocab word, okay? So that, the nice way to remember that are the first three letters in genotype are the same as gene, and that means that the genes that you get from your mom and dad combine to make this genotype, all right? Okay, so the next vocabulary word that comes from all of this is phenotype. So the phenotype is the physical trait that results from the genotype. So in this case, we've been talking about, and we were doing heterozygous, so they're different. HH. So the genotype, is HH, and the phenotype, or the physical trait, is hair versus no hair. So because hair is dominant, that you learned that, like I said yesterday in Amoeba Sisters, what is the physical trait that will result from this genotype? The physical trait is hair. So what will show up? That's the phenotype, physical trait. So phenotype starts with the same letters as physical. So that's how you can remember that. So now your vocabulary words are heterozygous, alleles, genotype, phenotype, and now we need to move to homozygous. Now, homozygous, obviously, you see some similarities to heterozygous, and you may remember this from yesterday's Amoeba Sisters lesson. So, homozygous, homo means same, and zygous obviously means egg. So, homozygous means it is the same size letter or the same size allele. Remember, letter means allele. So, you can either have HH or HH. So, it can either be small, small, or capital, capital, but they have to be the same. Remember, don't be confused by the same letter. It's not the same letter, it's the same size letter. Obviously, it's the same letter because we are choosing the first letter of the dominant trait. That's how we decide what letter to use. So we're always using the same letter. And that's something you're going to have to get used to. But when we're talking about homozygous versus heterozygous, we're talking about the same size letter, not the same letter. Okay, so for now, these are the 5 vocabulary words that I really need you to know. Heterozygous, allele, genotype, phenotype, homozygous. Heterozygous, different size letter. Allele, the letter or gene that you get from your parent. Genotype, the two letter, or allele combination. The phenotype is the trait that results from the genotype, and homozygous is the same size allele or letter. So if you, or should I say when you, remember the definition of these vocabulary words, you're not going to have any problem solving the word problems for the Punnett squares. And Punnett squares are the same as the type cross the test cross that they called it in the Amoeba Sisters yesterday. So let's do some practice. Okay, so here's a Punnett square, and they're very easy. You're just going to draw a box with a box inside. And remember, Punnett squares just have 4 boxes, which means the fractions or the probability behind it are simple. It's either 0, 25, 50, 75, or 100%. So that makes things pretty simple. So here's our Punnett square, and I'm going to give you a scenario of someone having curly hair and straight hair. So here it is. Let's see. So there's a mom. Let's see. First of all, straight hair is dominant. Okay, so straight is dominant. And you are putting this, you are going to draw a Punnett square in your ISN. Okay, so do this in your ISN somewhere, left or right, doesn't matter to me. Straight is dominant. Okay, you got to remember that. That makes a big difference. So what letter does that mean we're going to use? So take a minute, think about it. Straight is dominant. That means we're going to use the letter S. Okay, the letter S. So straight is dominant. So mom has curly hair. Dad is heterozygous straight hair. What is the probability that the offspring will be curly? So take a minute, pause this video, and take a minute to figure it out. Okay, so hopefully you figured out that if mom has curly hair, she has to have 2 recessive genes, because the only way for the recessive trait to show up is for her to have 2 recessive genes. So just as a quick review, and I guess maybe we could have done this earlier, the only 3 options that you can have for genotypes is uppercase. Oh, I'm so used to doing the H's. Okay, is uppercase, 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 lowercase, and lowercase, lowercase. So remember, dominant always wins. So if there's a capital letter in the genotype, then the dominant trait will show up. The recessive trait will still hang around, but it will not show up. So in this case, they'll have straight hair. In this case, they'll have straight hair. In this case, they'll have curly hair. The only way for an offspring to have curly hair is for them to have is for them to have 2 recessive genes. Because if they have even 1 recessive gene, the dominant trait would show up, which in this case is straight. So let's go back up here to the Punnett square. Ooh, boy, I made a mess of that. Okay, so mom has curly hair. So it doesn't matter whether you put dad here or mom here, it doesn't matter. I'm going to put mom up here. So, ooh, geez, I just broke my own rule. That's bad news. Okay, so mom is lowercase s, and then it says that dad is heterozygous straight. So, remember, hetero means different. So, if you look at our choices, okay, our choices for what Dad could be are these three. So, which of these have different size letters? Are these different? No, they're the same size. Are these different? No, but these are different. So this is the only thing that he could be. So let's go back up here and plug Dad in, capital S, lowercase s. So remember, when you're doing your Punnett squares, you just do it just like you're reading a multiplication chart. So this would be capital S, lowercase s, capital S, lowercase s. Remember, capital always goes first, just to remind you that the dominant is going to win. Capital S, lowercase s, and then lowercase s, lowercase s. So the question was, what is the probability that the offspring will be curly? Okay, here's that question right here. So probability is always in percent. So the probability, the only curly-haired child is right there. So that would be 25%. All right, let's try another one. Okay, we'll start off with another Punnett square. And we'll do hair color of a mouse. Okay, so we have a brown mouse, or we have hair color of a mouse, white and gray, and gray is dominant. So we have gray is dominant over white. And so what letter would we use? We would have to use G. Okay? So if you're still struggling with trying to figure out what the options are for the genotypes, remember the genotypes are the two-letter combinations, write out what the choices are. Our choices are capital, 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 lowercase, lowercase, lowercase. Okay, so here is your scenario, your situation. So the mommy mouse is homozygous gray. Dad is homozygous white. What is the probability that the offspring will be white? Okay, so set up the Punnett square in your notebook, pause this tutorial, and try to figure it out. Okay, so hopefully you were able to figure out if mom is homozygous gray, she has to be this because she is homozygous, which means the letters are the same. So she is capital G, capital G. Dad is homozygous white, which means he has to be this because he is the recessive trait, G, G. So let's put these together. Remember, it's just like reading a graph or a multiplication chart. Capital G, lowercase g. See, even though you would think the little g would come first, capital always comes first. Capital G, little g, capital G, little g, capital G, little g. So, what color is this one? Gray. What color? Oh, sorry, you can't see what I'm pointing at. What color is that one? Gray. What color is that one? Gray. How about that? Gray. How about that? Gray. So 100% are gray. So what is the probability of them being white? 0%. So what you're going to do is when you're done with this tutorial, I want you to take the paper that's in the basket in the middle table, and I want you to work on it independently. I know you know what that's independently, okay? Because there might be some people who are still struggling with that. Mrs. Stokes obviously is a pro at this, so if you have any questions, make sure you ask her. This is not homework, But if Mrs. Stokes decides that you're not making good use of your time, she may change her mind on that. So you shouldn't have any problem with it. If you get through this first paper really fast, I'll have a backup paper that you can start, because some of you are going to get this really fast. Once you figure out the vocabulary, it goes really quickly. So good luck, and I will see you all tomorrow.